Welcome back to the Unanimous Decision Podcast. I am your host, D Palm. Follow me on Twitter at DPalm66. And do not look at your phone or podcatcher device so confused. I told you to subscribe so that when I drop shows like this in the middle of a week, or the end of a week, I should say, you don't have to wait for me to announce it later the next day. We're back. We're early, as everyone knows. It'll be a normal show on Monday. Don't worry about that. Let's do all the business out of the way, then I'll explain what we're doing. The show, of course, Unanimous Decision Podcast, brought to you by the good folks at the NTR Network. You can follow the show on Twitter at UDPod. When you're discussing the show on social media, use that hashtag UDPod for me so I can find you. And thank you for spreading the gospel that is Unanimous Decision. You can follow the entire network at the MTR Network on Twitter. MTR is the website. It's a great place to get everything you want to know, from comics to gaming to TV to movie reviews to politics, and now clearly to sports. You want to make sure your voice is heard, that you're getting your feedback in. Leave us 5 stars in the iTunes store, and I'll read it on the air. I won't be doing that on the Friday shows that are coming for the next, I think, 7 weeks. I'll be doing it on normal Monday shows, so I won't be reading interviews today. But you can also email the show at udpodcast@gmail.com if what you want to say is a bit bigger or more robust, that is, than a 5-star rating. So, you're asking yourself, what the hell is going on? Why is D-Palm ranting? Is he going to step on all the material for Sunday? No, I'm not. And this isn't Chris's fault for once. I realized that I had a lot of things I want to talk about, but I also booked these great guests that aren't going to really tie into the world of professional wrestling. And we're in the season now. We're post-Royal Rumble. All eyes are on Mania. It's going to be in Orlando this year. And I felt like it was just on us to do something for that. And I had to get some help. I had to reach out to PWTorch's Rich Fann. What up, Rich?
Not much, my man. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you for doing this with me. So for everyone who doesn't know what the road to WrestleMania is, that space is allegedly between Royal Rumble and Mania is kind of the big build to the biggest show of the year. It's kind of gotten pushed back. They explained the seeds for this Mania in at least Survivor Series, I have to say. Probably even earlier than that, if you want to talk about the Bray Randy angle, we're looking at right after SummerSlam. But this is going to be our lead up. Every Friday, you're going to get a Road to WrestleMania podcast. We're going to recap the week in WWE. As we get closer, we'll fold in NXT as well. But we're kind of going to just track the company as it leads us to the show of shows in Orlando. And so here we are, week 1 of the Road to WrestleMania. Let's talk about the card so far. So, Rich, right now, as we sit recording on the 16th of February, week 1 of the Road to WrestleMania, we've only got 2 matches on the WrestleMania card. The first one
that's weird.
It feels weird, right? I think part of it is that SmackDown just had their brand only, their solo brand pay-per-view. Raw's got one more left. I think kind of we're in that weird holding place, but we'll see how they want to play it. The only 2 matches on the card guaranteed right now is the Royal Rumble winner, Randy Orton, will be facing someone for a world title, and Brock Lesnar, Goldberg, round 2 after the squashing that was at Survivor Series. It feels light, right?
Super light.
Like, if you look at last year's Mania, which felt like it took 7 hours, maybe it's good, maybe it's bad, because now, we don't know what we're getting, but it's also kind of cool because we don't know what we're getting, and the booking's been so fluid, and there's so many different options coming out of it. I'm kind of excited. I'm kind of okay with the uncertainty.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat, because I feel like when I went last year, we knew going in from almost, there it is. When I went, it was like you knew going in, okay, this is what's going to happen, and just accept it. Triple H and Roman and, Lord knows what else. And this year, while there are certain things that kind of feel like it's on a track,
right,
there's still so many different ways they can deviate, and that's very fun.
You think about the Raw after Rumble last year, that's when Shane showed up.
Yep.
And we got to that Taker build very quickly. That match was made a lot sooner than people thought it would be. Maybe I have to check a calendar, but 7 weeks out, I feel like you're right. There's things that are on track to happen, but we don't exactly know how we're going to get there. Let's start outside the ring, talking news and notes and rumors. first things first, great news. It looks like Seth Rollins is going to make it back for Mania, which means the long-rumored, long-predicted Triple H Rollins battle with the pedigrees looks like it's on track to happen. You couldn't be happier for him, could you?
Not at all. I mean, I know he put on Instagram that he and Finn Balor have been rehabbing together, so I'm hoping that he also is on the road to recovery. But in Finn's case, he's a smaller dude, so having this much time off, he's got to get the weight back. Whereas Seth, he just has to get the cardio back, and he'll be fine.
Right. And I think it's really interesting. I hope they don't rush back Finn for Mania. I'd love to see him. He'd get a massive pop the Raw after Mania. Like, that's an easy pop. I think you just save him for that pop. I think Rollins is back sooner. I think you're right. The conditioning's got to come back, but we're all lucky it wasn't as bad an injury. And after, as it was previously, and after the 30 for 30-esque Road to Recovery documentary they put on the network, I feel like he should have just come out as the biggest babyface ever, but this injury is going to make him even a more credible babyface.
Oh, absolutely, because they can finally right the wrong they did when he came back, and they felt like he had to be a heel to offset Roman.
Let him turn himself.
Right.
Also happening this week, the announcement, Teddy Long is going to the Hall of Fame. I am all for this. Teddy Long's the guy who, in this industry, has done everything. He started as a ref, then he was the tag team manager for Doom. He's a guy who always stayed around the industry, particularly in an era when, particularly for black wrestlers, it was not the best industry to be in. He's given so much, and if your only memories of Teddy Long are playa, and 6-man tags, I would implore you to go see some of his other work.
Absolutely. One of my best memories as a kid, when I finally got introduced to WCW videotapes, was watching Doom and watching how awesome those guys were.
They were great.
So I'm very happy for them. In fact, I wrote an editorial letter to the editor to the Torch a few months ago about black excellence that I then updated and put on my own blog, because a lot of issues have come up about the idea of quotas, and a lot of non-people of color wrestling fans are constantly, especially in the last few weeks, they have this mindset of, well, I rooted for the Freebirds and I love Southern wrestling and I don't particularly care that the stars and bars mean something politically. I just want my wrestling. And I'm like, hold on a second, because there's a lot of history there. And a guy like Teddy Long had to live through it. Right. He had to hear the N-word being said in locker rooms. He had to hear or see guys get treated far worse than their white counterparts. Mm-hmm. And I applaud the fact that he rose to the role he got.
100%. This guy's who's ubiquitous for the industry. And I think that something else that's out there is there are great Teddy Long stories. So I don't know if you listened, but they did a talking shop on Talk is Jericho last week, and they told some pretty good ones. So, and hearing Luke Gallows tell Teddy Long stories is always a fun just sentence to say. So give that a listen. He involves Wrestler's Court and has a taker in it, so it's a pretty good story. Lastly this week, so reports out of the Wrestling Observer newsletter that the plan for now is for Kurt Angle, who's being inducted in the Hall of Fame, to do some wrestling in WWE. It's speculated that he wouldn't even work a part-timer schedule. He'd work more like an event schedule like Taker does. And then he'd also have to also pending past physical. Rich, do you think it not denigrates, we haven't had many Hall of Famers go in and then come back and lace him back up. It's one of the reasons Shawn Michaels, every time it's rumored, he's always like, I'm going to hold that commitment. Is it a disconnect for you to have the idea of Kurt Angle wrestling post-induction?
No. And the reason why is, I would say AJ Styles. If we never got a chance to see the AJ Styles that's currently in the WWE, it would be a disservice to fans. And I think for a generation of fans, like not us, but maybe some of your listeners, some of our listeners, and they only see Kurt on the network, and maybe they didn't seek him out in TNA. And the guy who was hopping on a milk truck, yeah, I mean, I barely did, but that's just because I was, especially after having moved here, I'm obsessed with Kurt Angle. Watching Foxcatcher, reading about what he would do to train for the Olympics, seeing him as a pro wrestler, folks need to, and we joke about this all the time and just regular parlance to people, but for the good of the wrestling culture, you need to see Kurt Angle wrestle one of the luminaries or some of the luminaries of this era and have that chapter written, just like AJ got a chance to prove he, after 15 years of doing it everywhere else, was meant to do it at the highest levels of the WWE as well.
Yeah, that's a great case, but and I agree with what you're saying. I'm wary because one, we all know how Kurt left.
Yeah.
And two, it's just, I don't know. And I know the Hall of Fame, people take it differently. Work, shoot, whatever. It's clearly a work, and they're working this with it. But I don't know. It means something to me that Michaels doesn't come back because of that. That said, there is a bevy of talent on this roster right now that I can't wait to see in the ring with Kurt Angle. We talked before the show, but AJ Styles and Kurt just doing it in the WWE. That's a crazy sentence. Samoa Joe and Kurt have had great matches. But let's talk about it first time. Let's talk about people like Roman Reigns. Like Roman and Kurt, that's a great match waiting to happen. Cesaro and Kurt.
I mean, Cesaro and Kurt. Rusev and Kurt.
Sammy.
Ray and Kurt. Sammy. Cena, obviously. I mean, those two coming back together.
Yeah. Do it again.
And in my head, if he knows he has if he has a retirement tour, I would love for his final match to be against Cena because he gave Cena the shot.
Yeah.
And that would just be a perfect full circle.
It would be really perfect. Okay, let's do this. Let's give him 5 matches.
Okay.
Can you name 5 workers? Five matches you'd want to see Kurt work with?
Yes. AJ, Cena, Roman, Brock, and Kevin Owens.
He always pulled the best matches out of Rock, didn't he?
Yeah.
He pulled just amazing matches out of Rock. That's a good list. My list is going to be Cena for the reason you said. I think if they cap it off with him going out on his back to Cena, that's a great way to end it all. As I said, I want to see him in Roman just because I think he's spoken about what a fan of Roman's work he is.
Yeah.
And I think that they would just do great work together. Cesaro, just because I just want to see it. That's just me being greedy, 100%. I would love. I don't think they'll ever do. It clearly can't ever happen, but this is one of those fantasy booking things. If Bryan could get cleared for one match, man.
Oh man!
If you could clear Bryan for one match, and just give me Bryan Angle. I don't think I'll ask for a whole lot more in the world, but Bryan Angle, man.
Oh man! I mean that also makes me think of a 5, I guess, B. Of the fact that there's one man who said in his life he wrestled Kurt Angle too early in his career and he always wanted a shot and proven he could do a better match with him, and that's Shinsuke Nakamura.
That was my 5th.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. That's fine. Shinsuke. Nakamura was my 5th. I just think that I think that if you save him for big stages, let's say you get 4 out of him.
Yeah.
Let's say you get 4. Let's say you get SummerSlam, Survivor Series, Rumble, Mania. You could build something really special here, and a blow off with it being ending with Cena, Angle. And where's next year? It's back in New Orleans, right?
Correct.
That's hell. Let's do it. Book it. But again, fantasy booking, hoping it's hope. The man's got to pass the physical and come to terms with him first, but fingers are crossed on this end. All right, so we're starting our road to WrestleMania because we had our very first post-Royal Rumble pay-per-view I don't know what they call them anymore, special events, whatever they're calling them, Elimination Chamber. I'm going to admit, I'm one of those weirdo, wrestling. We've had this conversation where I'm like a weirdo. I like work rate. So I've never, and I also lapsed for so long. The Elimination Chamber was never, for me, a thing. Because by the time I came back, the rest of the fandom had kind of tuned it out. So right. I walked in, I was like, all right, I guess this isn't that big of a deal. But I really think they did a good job with this. And let's put it this way. It's a B pay-per-view in February, and I left entertained. What grade would you give it on a grading scale?
I would definitely say a B+. I really enjoyed that pay-per-view from top to bottom. Most importantly, not just the main event of the Chamber, but the fact that they let 3 women's matches carry it.
Yep, it was, and that was the thing, is you take a step back and you're like, wait a second. I saw 3 women's, I saw 3 legitimate, not schmozzes, not segments. You had another woman who was literally running the show because her segment tied everything together. It just felt like a really good spotlight was being put on them. And let's open there, because Naomi going over getting the title, I don't think anyone saw it coming.
No. And the only thing out of that match I was surprised by was not the next night, but on SmackDown, the fact that, and we'll get to this, but you could tell when she was in the ring that her nameplates were glow in the dark, and that's a level of getting it I hoped against hope the WWE would have, and they did.
It's the coolest thing in the world. And people say, oh, I don't know, they just gave it to Alexa Bliss. What they're doing on SmackDown is they're doing something a little different than they're doing on Raw with the women's division. Something I'm enjoying more, because they're making everyone matter.
Yes.
On Raw,
you have a 6-woman division instead of Charlotte and everyone else.
And Dan's partner A. It was at one point they had updated the WWE renders to where you could go through historically and look at each champion. And if you went to the WWE Raw Women's title, it was just they made the joke themselves. It was Sasha and Charlotte back and forth. And for SmackDown, 3 women have held the title. A 4th is Natty, who we can all say she might be the best female worker they still have. I'm sorry. That match on with Nikki was great. And then you've got Nikki Bella, the longest reigning Divas champion ever. You have 5 legitimate wrestlers. And for people who say it was too soon for Naomi to get the belt, that's the point. The point they're showing you is that styles make fights. We were all shocked when Becky lost the belt to Alexa. Right. Alexa started getting hot, really hitting that character stride. They slipped the belt to Naomi. If this is how they're going to build this division, it's going to turn itself into autopilot. And I'm here for it, because now you look at even the 6-member division, really, Mickie James, multiple time past Divas champion. This is something special. This is some really strong booking for women, particularly on what most consider the better show.
Yeah, and I know a lot had been made early about the fact that Raw was quote unquote top heavy with talent. I think in the last year, Alexa Bliss, Carmella, and the returning Mickie James have done a masterful job in filling in and not only stepping up, they're stepped out. Like, all of them have established characters.
No, you couldn't be more right, man. I think that what they've done with this SmackDown Women's division is a revelation, and it shows that you can strongly book anything as long as your writing's behind it. And further proof that you can poorly book anything as long as your writing's not behind it. This tag division's, I don't know what they got to do, man.
I'm praying they just set this up for a flush and a reset with Alpha versus the Revival.
I was going to say, we need the Revival to show up tonight after Mania.
Yeah, top guys, just take care of it.
Top guys doing top guy things. Because this right here, man, the fact that they tried to swerve us to think the Ascension were going to be the SmackDown Tag Champions.
Yeah.
They gave them their first win on TV in forever the Tuesday before, and they're the last team out after debilitated American Alpha. You didn't make American Alpha look strong. You reminded us that the Ascension's weak.
Yeah. Even on Alpha's worst day, the Ascension couldn't
get
do
it done. I was like, oh, that's pretty ballsy of them to give the belts to the Ascension. And then Jason Jordan kicked out. I was like, oh no.
Yeah, like, no, not this time.
Cena tag team. And the other thing is, they need to give us more of the personality of American Alpha. Give us some more backstage interviews. Spend some time with these 2 guys. They have great chemistry. We saw it grow and develop on NXT TV. Use that same tactic here. Getting them over in a small place is the same way as getting them over in a big place. You got to do it bigger. And they need to make, I think, a bigger commitment to that. And you're right. We need a shot in the arm for this division. I hope that when Eric Rowan comes back, we can get some sort of Wyatt tag. I don't know. We need something there. It feels empty. I said out loud, oh yeah, the Ascension or the American Alpha is the tag champs, aren't they? It doesn't feel like it matters. They had a handicap match with Dolph and Kalisto versus, Apollo Crews and Kalisto versus Dolph Ziggler. Rich, I'm no expert. Can you book a heel as the underdog in a handicap match?
Well, I was mentioning because there were a lot of people on Twitter that didn't get the significance of what was going on with that match, and I just said, well, when you have the minority team barely beat Dolph Ziggler, you're saying a lot while also putting a heel in a really bad spot.
Yeah.
It was a lose-lose for Dolph. Like either you lose to two guys who haven't really done well on the main roster. They're kind of
Former
treading
U.S.
water.
champ, Kalisto.
But with Apollo, I don't. They
fumbled this so far.
And it's funny because Vince's version of throwing people in the deep pool has worked for so many other people that Triple H can't really push back with, well, if we kept him for a few months, like, well, I took Corbin early. I took Alexa Bliss early. I took, Carmella early. And they're all doing quite well after. Yeah.
And do you think it's a lack of opportunity for Cruz, or is it just there's nothing for it? Because there's space for him. Like the 2-hour Raw, like you saw the thinness. Not to say that there was an ulterior reason they had 3 women's matches, but 6 of their top talent were in the Elimination Chamber.
I think one of the issues is Vince has always had a blind spot for booking a top black heel face. He does not know how to do it.
Yeah. Well, it's a big miss so far, and I want to like Apollo Crews, Law Nation, man. He's from Stone Mountain. I live near Stone Mountain. Like I'd be excited to cheer for him, and they give me no reason to, and so I hope they can right the ship. I think Dolph could make him a star. Like Dolph could carry that feud. They could do this, but
all they need to do, and this goes with 205, put him with his best friend Akira Tozawa, and their relationship will make both of them spectacular on television.
Vince,
because he could even
Vince, have you ever seen Rush Hour? Have you seen Rush Hour, Vince?
Oh, yes.
We know Vince is way behind on shit. Like Rush Hour could feel new to Vince.
Yes.
I'm just saying.
But they tried that with 205 Live. I know most people don't watch it. I mean, to be honest, I don't. I try to catch the highlights.
I watch it.
Austin Aries did the Rush Hour. Do you understand the words coming out of my mouth? I was very worried that Akira wasn't going to talk in English because he speaks English.
Of course,
he did.
He spoke in Japanese. It's amazing. I like 205 Live. I like Tozawa. I think he should be with his roommate. You're right. I agree with that. But I don't know. We'll see how it all works out. You get Randy versus Luke. This is another version of me saying on my television, screaming, Luke Harper can be a star. Just let him be a star.
Yes.
He's going to be.
Absolutely.
We saw it again on Tuesday night. The guy has a presence. The fans connect with him. He can do literally everything in that ring. Let's strap a rocket to his back and see what happens. SmackDown Live, you're taking shots. And let's get the Elimination Chamber match, because for what it was pretty well booked. You had Baron Corbin was the first elimination, I think, and he came out looking like $1 million.
Yes.
Like
and I really enjoyed his. He, even on SmackDown, he followed up. He's like, "You beat me, I put him in a hospital. Seems fair."
Honestly, I'm like, this is, and I'm going to say this again about another character later. This is how they should have booked Roman.
Yeah.
This is the guy. This is the badass we wanted. And they booked Roman like that for 2 weeks after TLC last year.
Yeah.
2 weeks. He was a badass, and they stopped. Baron Corbin, the booking on Baron Corbin's great. They're clearly going to that Miz thing, which is fine, I guess. Miz and Maurice versus Cena and Nikki. If it's rumored to be Nikki's stepping away from the ring for a while, she wants to do a match with her man. I get it. Let him do it. I think Miz and Cena will do a good job building for that.
Cena, one of the other things with it, too, is it's also in this week's Observer, right after the Angle news, Cena is going to be gone from the first SmackDown after Mania on for another project.
Yeah, man, yeah. Do this, it'll be fine, and then have someone, you can have someone jump him on that Tuesday after Mania, put him out and put themselves over. Like, it's booking itself right now. But that's the rumor we have for going into Mania. I see they're headed that way. You saw it in the backstage with Maurice getting hit during Nikki's match. They're going to slowly build there. That's fine. I'm fine with that. Bray Wyatt.
Same here.
This is what people say, oh, they're burying so-and-so. If they decide to make that person matter, they're going to matter. Bray Wyatt pinned in 2 nights John Cena twice and AJ Styles.
This is one, again, just like we were talking with Apollo Crews. It's really funny that one of Vince's biggest adages, and you know, I want to tear what little hair I have on the top of my head out, where he says, you know, I don't care how many times I beat a guy, I can make anyone in a night, and he made Bray Wyatt in a night.
He proved himself completely right.
Right, it's like Vince could like just get up, he hits the back, you know, he hits the behind the back three, and he's just like, and as you were saying, and you have nothing to say.
There's nothing to say. Like, wow, he really did it. He didn't just have Bray go over. He made it matter, and he made it definitive. And yeah,
there was no banana peel.
No.
Both of them ate Sister Abigail, and both of them stayed down.
But I think it's a testament to the whole writing staff and to Vince how well they kind of dark horse this, because as you know, we're smarks or whatever the words used these days, so we kind of saw it coming. But if you look just kind of from a meta point of view, the entire since SummerSlam has been the only two people at this level are AJ Styles and John Cena. Every interview Cena does, WWE.com, anywhere, he puts over AJ. AJ's being touted as Wrestler of the Year. 5-star AJ. The guy pulls 5-star matches out of everyone. John Cena's doing his best wrestling of his career, and you had the Eater of Worlds pin them both. That's well booked. That's making him look strong. That's what we call a rub. And it continued the Tuesday night on SmackDown. I really enjoyed Bray's opening promo because for the first time in a long time, his crazy shit seemed to be resonating because of that there gold on his shoulder.
Yeah. And I even dug Cena's retort because fans were getting a little antsy at Cena, because even I had some friends of mine send me texts about it. You know, oh man, this guy's doing his bootstraps crap and I'm sick of it. It's like, no, Cena was healing it up because that chant needed to go away.
Mm-hmm.
You deserve it. He earned it. Like the "You Deserve It" chant is basically the Susan Lucci Award for winning a world title.
Wow.
And a lot of times I take offense to that for the wrestler because of that. You don't want to tell Bray Wyatt you deserve it. He didn't get the title for being Husky Harris. He got it because he's the scariest dude on SmackDown, and he proved it in that chamber. And I think Cena, in his own way, tried to remind people of that, and people didn't want to understand it. Like, there's a question right now of whether Bray is a face or heel because of the fan reaction. And my response to that is he's a cult leader, and the fans are okay being in his cult. Now, to him, he doesn't care either way, but to the fans, that's a decision you've made. And if you want to be a Firefly, that's great. But just realize the meta level that he's kind of worked you on. And it's brilliant. I mean,
it really is. I think we're eventually going to I think this ends with face Bray versus heel Randy.
Yeah.
At Mania. But who knows? We'll see how it turns out. But I think you're right. I think they've done a really good job of balancing the booking here, and I think that whatever path we get set on is going to be fine. I like the advancement of the IC title angle. Baron Corbin's winning that at Mania. Spoilers for if you didn't know. I'm calling that now. Whether it's one of the multi-man matches or if they just give Dean and Baron a little time. Baron Corbin, Big Banter's really impressed me, man. He's improved his ring work. His presence has always been great. He's great on the mic. He gets his character. He may be his character based on some of the backstage stuff that you may have heard, but he plays the character well, and I'm excited for him to get his first gold in the company. And can we talk about that title match?
Yeah, that was nuts.
SmackDown just giving them to us for free on a Tuesday.
It's like Twitter. I don't know how it's free.
That's a great point. I love that Bray took the beat down from Luke Harper and still got to pin Cena. It made him look even stronger. It's again, we want to yell at Vince, but he does shit like this. You're like, oh, he can book anyone. He can book anything. Who gives a shit? Until it matters, until they tell you it matters, none of it matters. And what they're telling you right now is that Bray Wyatt fucking matters. And I am all here for it. You saw Randy come out and say he won't be wrestling Bray, which of course means he'll be wrestling Bray. But I like that SmackDown threw that little air of well, what if they don't wrestle? They didn't let you just sit back in the laurels and assume that's where we're getting there. I think that's where we're going to end up. But the fact that they've got all this time to build and no events prior to Mania, lets them play with the form a little bit. And so, while I think the number one contenders match next week will be, unfortunately, part of the rumored AJ Shane build, this ends with the Viper versus Bray at Mania, correct?
I think it's going to be a Wyatt family 3-way.
I was about to say that's the other card you play if you can really build Luke Harper.
And that's where I think he might win the Battle Royal. And then that forces Randy's hand in saying, well, if he's going into that match, I have to protect my master. And is he protecting it, or is he protecting his investment in winning that title?
Well, that's the thing is, you look at this angle, it's an angle that's been run since SummerSlam.
Yeah.
It's been since legitimately September, and it's a 9-month angle, and you don't see that a lot, especially in WWE. It's what we say we want. And so wherever they go, if they go with the triple threat, that's fine. I'm here for it. If they go with one-on-one, if they go, I think no matter what happens, I think Randy, as the established guy, ends up with his shoulders pinned.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to keep the belt on Bray. So, but I think we're going to have a lot of fun getting there. I think there's going to be some great wrestling to get there, too. Let's talk about Raw. Raw, again, like we said, they have another event prior to Mania, so the Mania build is still slowly simmering. But some of the bigger moments from Raw, I had the Directionless New Day, because I get that maybe we're treading water until we get to the big Mania feud. But what if we don't have a big Mania feud? Like last year, they forced that League of Nations thing on us, and then they got the schma spot with the Legends. But I don't know. Who would you like to see the New Day really go after? Because let's be honest, they did the club thing.
Yeah, I mean, the New Day beat the club like 11 billion times as tag champ. So for the good of the order, they need to be away from each other, because it's like, didn't we beat you? Thank you, dear. It's like the Ginyu Force in Dragon Ball. It's like, I mean, you guys know you've been like smoked 800 times, right? Like, yeah, what are you doing? So, and we just talked about the top guys going to SmackDown. So I would say they need a team that either is brought in or is elevated to give them a run for their money and give them a challenge. Otherwise, this would be the point, and this goes back to what I was saying about Vince with his blind spot. This is traditionally the point where you would break up the team and you put a rocket to one of them as a single star. Out of that group, I would assume it would be Big E.
Well, we'd assume that, but we also know how they feel about Kofi.
Yeah.
They love that man, so I think.
I mean,
right.
If they wanted to do that and make Kofi like the vet that I had that one shot almost 8 years ago and it never came back until now, I'm for it. Especially with Money in the Bank.
I'm for them staying as a unit, but winning a singles title and defending it free world rules. Like, we are the U.S. champion.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think there's a lot of different ways to do it and make it pay off. Other things on Raw, Emelina, there's rumors that she just couldn't pull off the character, so I guess they're pulling that now. It seems like sure, everything.
Well, they wanted it to be like a cheesecakey Attitude Era diva character, and with Raw being the more done heavy, more Vince like heavy show in terms of like the vision, where more SmackDown's more egalitarian. He'll bring in Ryan Ward, he'll bring in Road Dogg, he'll bring in whomever. I can't remember who else is on that staff. I'm in many ways, I'm happy that it didn't work out, because I don't want to see her as this cheesecake. I want to see the Emma that was teaming up with Dana Brooke in NXT before she broke her back, which is just, I mean, at some point after the road to WrestleMania or even on it, we have to discuss how the women, the trade-off of them going from the quote-unquote divas to these work weight monsters is they're getting the horrific injuries the work rate dudes are getting, and they're getting them quicker in their career.
Yeah. I think that Emma as an Eva Marie who could wrestle would have been really interesting.
Yes.
But I think you're right. I think if she couldn't play the character, I'm glad they didn't force it. Otherwise, we would be making fun of it right now. Samoa Joe is going to be awesome on this roster. I love him as the Destroyer. I love him going after Sami Zayn. I think we're going to end up getting. We might get Joe Zayn again at Mania. I don't know. They may run that back. It'll be interesting to see what they do, because he and Sami have really good chemistry. They had that, the 2 out of 3 falls match at NXT last year?
Yeah.
That kind of cemented Sami's call-up. So we'll see how it goes. I think that's really good there. I don't know what they're doing with Roman Reigns or Braun because I think they're kind of interchangeable at this point with where they go at Mania. The Fastlane match is going to be very telling. Because I hope they give him a Taker, man. He's earned it.
Yeah, I think Roman. Roman would take
earned
it.
Taker, man. I think you go Braun. I think you inject Braun into Big Show's Shaq thing.
Yeah, I figured he could go into Andre, give him the armbar
Did he win
trophy.
it yet? No. It's
No.
only been Cesaro and
Corbin and Big Show.
And Big Show. Huh. That's a really good point. That's if they do the armbar again, yeah, put Corbin put Strowman over that way. That'd be good. But I think that it's time for Roman Taker. I think Taker is in such a physical situation that you need someone who can physically carry him through a lot of the match. And Roman's someone who physically can do it. Bayley won on Raw because Charlotte doesn't wrestle on Raw to win. Are you okay with this title switch?
Well, I was listening to the Observer radio on podcast, and I thought it was hilarious that Dave had made the analogy that Charlotte's the reverse Uriah Faber, and that she can only win the big one.
Wow.
And I was like, that's pretty good. Then that's where I see her. Now that he mentioned it, I was like, yeah, that's exactly what it is. And so I was against it until I saw how they did it. So now you have that thing hanging over Bayley's head, right, where Charlotte did lose, but she also got help from Sasha. And Sasha, being the saucy woman she is, can kind of slowly insinuate that, kind of like how Ellsworth did with AJ. I might have issues with Charlotte, but I know I can wax you.
I think we're all just here for the Sasha heel turn, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm making sure we're all on the same page. That this face Sasha thing is done. And let's talk about my favorite thing from the week: the reestablishment of Psycho Killer Kevin Owens. We knew it was coming. We've been joking about it. They joked about it. They faked splits before. We've been literally just pins and needles waiting for this to happen. And when he finally turned on Jericho, I wasn't ready.
The why is my name on this list broke my heart.
Jericho sold the hell out of that too, didn't he?
Yeah, and the slow pull up of the clipboard, and you see it's the list of KO, and the dead eyes that Kevin Owens does so well as a sociopath. Well. I just felt so bad.
He's an international treasure, Kevin Owens is. And I think that you had to do that to make the Goldberg match feel like it's going to be a match, because if you think about it just logically from what we've seen on screen, Goldberg chopped down the biggest tree with 2 swings.
Yeah.
Jokey Kevin Owens wasn't going to go in that match and have it go well. He had to get
and
mean,
now
he had
Triple
to get
H
serious.
is also.
Yep, Triple H is back in his ear. Like this, you've made that match more compelling, even though I think you and I both know who's going over in that one.
Yeah. And it's funny because I call it now the large adult son version of Evolution.
What,
and my
Trips Joe and Kevin?
Yeah. And I would add Brontista.
Brontista, nicely done.
And I think it's perfect because all those guys have been NXT people. All of them have something that they owe Triple H, and all of them are monsters.
He's got a stable of destroyers. It's very interesting, and you're 100% right. And I think I hadn't even thought about it that way, but yeah, I think they're building something big here for Mania, particularly with the Triple H angle. And as a fan, I'm 100% here for it. I'm 100% here for what they're trying to do with this. What are your thoughts? How do you feel 7 weeks out? Are you ready? Are you excited for what's next? Do you like the feeling of kind of not knowing how big this card is going to be and what's going to be on it?
I am. And it's mainly because of the fact that last year, this time with the injuries, part of that was the reason we knew, with the exception of the Shane stuff.
Well, what's left?
Yeah. Now you still have some injuries, but the roster's been buttressed so well with quality talent that at this point, I don't care what angle they're going with any of these matches. I'm there for it.
Yeah, me too. It's not like, you're right. It's not trying to search for what's going to happen next. It's kind of like they could do anything, and I'm 100% here for it. And I'm gonna give it a shot, and I'm gonna be excited. And yeah, this is a good time to be a wrestling fan. We're gonna do these every Friday, like I said, every Thursday. Gonna come out every Friday. This is week 1 in the books. Rich, tell them where to find you, man.
Absolutely. If they go on Twitter, it'd be at r.deuce, RDOTDEUCE.
Awesome. You can listen over to PWTorch. Was the East Coast Cast?
Yep, East Coast Cast. And then on Fridays, I do a live cast with Bruce Mitchell of the Torch, where folks can call in and have, their say and hear from us.
See, I normally would have belled you for even saying Bruce Mitchell's name, but you're also promoting yourself, so I'm going to let it slide. This has been the Unanimous Decision Podcast. This is the Road to WrestleMania Week 1, guys. We got 6 weeks left. If you enjoy this, if you don't enjoy this, leave a 5-star review. Tell me about it. Tell me if you didn't like it. Tell me if you liked it. Just email us at udpodcast@gmail.com. You can follow the show on Twitter at udpod. You can follow me on Twitter at dpalm66. You can follow the entire MTR Network at the MTR Network. That was your show. This is your outro. See you next week.